Yeah,
Welcome
I've
to
got
Pivot.
headphones on. Sorry, I was just going to explain. Like, I've got headphones on. Sorry if you hear a little bit of construction in the background or a dog.
Okay.
This is what we're dealing with.
This is real life. We are human and
It's happening live,
authentic
people.
and showing up as we are, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining today. Welcome to Pivot and Thrive. This is an interview series showcasing business owners who are demonstrating creativity, collaboration, and resilience, with hope that by sharing our stories, we can inspire each other, we can learn from each other, and we can grow our businesses faster. So much of the small business economy supports the Vermont economy as a whole, and so it's really important that we create systems and ways to come together to support business success in Vermont for the vitality and vibrancy of our communities. Before we begin, I want to recognize the Abenaki Nation and recognize them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. We love Vermont, the Dawnland, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, and it is just an incredible place to be and to share this space. And so thank you for sharing this time with us and for taking this moment to recognize the Abenaki Nation. Pivot and Thrive. We are so excited for the opportunity to share stories, to come together, to learn, to create partnerships, and to collaborate so that we can grow and we can learn from each other. Vermont Collaborative Circle is dedicated to supporting small business success so that we can make Vermont a place where businesses and families thrive. And without further ado, I am so excited to welcome Alexx Shuman of Nomadic Kitchen Confections. Alexx is a multi-passionate doer, a nurturing rule breaker, a crier, and a classically trained chef who panicked when she realized that working in a restaurant industry was making her fall out of love with making food. Unwilling to sacrifice such an integral part of her being, she left, promising that down the line, she'd find a way she'd find a more innovative way to put food at the center of her life. A few years working in Boston startups, an MBA, and a stint living in Provence writing about food, she found herself back in her beloved home state of Vermont, starting the state's premier marshmallow company. Alexx, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love for you to start by telling us a little bit about your business and how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I was just saying to you before that I've been on vacation for a little bit. So this is kind of like the marker of me easing back into work and thinking about my business and remembering I have one.
Well, hopefully it feels like a warm welcome. We're excited to talk.
It's like a hug. I love it. But yeah, so it's interesting because I'm used to saying I'm Alexx and I'm the one woman show behind, but I'm going to have to change that for the first time ever. So for the first time ever, I'm Alexx and I'm the one woman show with a little bit of help behind Nomadic Kitchen, a niche and rotating collection of mind-blowing marshmallows like you've never had before. How I got started, I like to say that it's a long story and a short story. Starting with the long story, we're going like a decade back. I'm graduating from college with a degree in art history. I'm starting culinary school, and I'm believing that the restaurant industry is the place for me. I start working in it, and I hate it. And it's kind of my first panic moment where it's this feeling of like, oh, no, 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 no. What do you mean? Food is the thing that nourishes my soul. What do you mean that working in the industry makes me feel like my soul is dying?
Oh, no.
First pivot, I really kind of decided like, okay, deep breath. I'm going to treat working in the industry kind of as graduate school. I'm just going to learn everything I can. I'm going to work for all of the best chefs I can find. I'm going to stage in all of the best restaurants, absorb as much as I can, and then I need to get out because it wasn't going to work long term. So that's what I did. I left after it was like 3 or 5 years. I don't even remember anymore. started working for a catering startup in Boston, writing content for them. That funneled me further and further down this marketing track. Eventually, I found myself working as an email marketing manager for a company that had absolutely nothing to do with food. And I found it's like, all right, Alex, you're building a lot of skills and you are also getting further and further and further away from this thing that was supposed to be your core. Even though I realized it at that point, I kept going further down that rabbit hole. Actually ended up getting an MBA because it was this feeling, it was a desperate, confused feeling of like, all right, I guess I'm corporate now. Like, I guess I'm climbing the ladder. I guess I need to make up for the fact that I'm an art kid who doesn't know the first thing about business. Very well then. So it was it was this long stretch of confusion that right now I can appreciate and feel a whole lot of gratitude for. But at the time, it felt absolutely like I was just flailing and grasping at whatever straw was there for me to grasp at.
Isn't it amazing how you can't anticipate how your experiences lead you on a path, and remembering that you can chart your way is such a powerful thing to remember.
It's so powerful, and it's also so difficult to remember. It's one of those things that I feel like I'm constantly re-remembering. And it's like, Alex, damn it, you forgot again. You forgot that you can trust the process again. But every time I do re-remember, it's such a gift. But there was this interesting, we'll call it a pivot point, while I was in my MBA program, where I was around the dinner table with a whole bunch of my classmates, RIP being around the dinner table with your classmates. And everyone was talking about like, what's your dream scenario for when you graduate? And, it was an MBA program. So it was like, I'm going to be, I hope to be promoted to VP of operations at the company I used to work at. Like, I hope to, get a promotion at the company that I currently work at, that very tangible stuff. And then it got around to me, and I just kind of had this like moment where my heart spoke, and I was like, I'm writing a cookbook in the south of France. And it was like, I am? Oh my goodness. Like, it was almost even a surprise to myself. It was definitely a surprise to everyone at the table with me. But then there was this series of synchronicities where 3 weeks before I was graduating my program, somebody from my college in my, an alumni Facebook group posted this thing being like, hey, I just inherited a house in the south of France. I can't go right now. I need someone to go live there for free in exchange for like making it livable so that I can turn it into an Airbnb.
Oh my goodness.
Literally 72 hours later, and this will become a theme. 72 hours later, I had booked a ticket, and it was one of those yup feelings that kind of comes from here. That's this pull that's kind of hard to justify to anyone around you, that's like, hey, I know 3 days ago this wasn't the plan, but now it is. Please trust me. And it's always been kind of those intuitive, I can't explain this, it's just happening decisions that really feel like they've kicked my life back on track.
Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you go about convincing yourself, let alone the people who you want to support you and offer guidance in your life? What was that story like for you?
It's a little bit different every time. It's getting easier every time. Kind of the more that I do it and the more that I prove to myself that my intuition can be trusted, that it is wise, it is knowing, and it exists independently of, every external opinion that's ever been thrown at me. And the more that I sink into that, the more I really gather the evidence that it has the answers and nothing outside of me does. And so I guess the advice there is, it's going to hurt. It's going to be strange. It's going to require a certain level of, I don't give a shittery about I remember telling my dad, who's in here, and like, I had so much anxiety telling him like, hey, this is the thing that I'm doing when I graduate my MBA program. Sorry. Because I knew it was like, oh, this isn't the thing that I saw for you, but I'm doing it anyway. And so just like starting to really develop a sense of faith in yourself and a sense of belief that you do know what's best for you.
Mm.
And if you are kind of making decisions from kind of like that core in the middle that's like connected to your heart, connected to your center, then it's probably not going to lead you astray. But it takes practice, and it does
Mm.
take kind of like building the evidence for yourself for it to become easy.
Yeah, and it can be incredibly uncomfortable in that
Oh,
figuring it out stage. So,
always. And I don't think it ever gets not uncomfortable. You just learn how to be more comfortable being uncomfortable.
well, that's a good theme for this year, this space that we're in right now. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's kind of, yeah, that might be the thesis statement for the new world. It's like, hey, just get comfortable being uncomfortable and good things will happen, I promise.
Mm.
But
So you
yeah.
bought a ticket.
Yep. I quickly contacted a company I used to work for, set up a remote part-time job, and really committed to like, all right, I'm going over there to write about food. And hopefully, I was like, within 4 months, my goal is to get something published somewhere, but really just to get into the habit of having food be at the center of my mind, the center of my life, and just finding a vehicle for me to explore it. So I did. I went over there. I wrote every single day. I traveled on the weekends. I was working 5 hours a day, making exactly as much money as I needed to make in order to facilitate this. And I ended up staying as long as I could without a visa, and then a little bit longer. And I think I walked away with maybe 20 blog posts that got better and better and better over time. I got published twice in that period of time.
Wow.
Um, and then I came home. It was, I'd been there as long as I could. I was like, maybe I'll stay. I don't know. I also was staring down the barrel of 3 really comfortable marketing, very MBA type jobs. But I landed at home in Vermont to spend the holidays with my family. And while I was here, I made marshmallows, and I had made them before. But this time I was seeing them in this whole new light. I was seeing them as this unexplored vehicle for flavor and creativity. My MBA brain was going off around return on investment and cost of goods sold. My marketing brain was going off about, telling this story in all of the way. How could I talk about this thing in all of the ways that people are going to see what I see? And I just felt all of the parts of me that I'd activated over the course of what felt like 10 super fruitless years coming together in this way that showed me like, hey, okay, something's here. So again, there was this intuitive pull moment. And between having the idea and launching my first pop-up shop, 72 hours.
Wow.
In that period, I built, an e-commerce website. I developed 3 recipes that I was really proud of. And I was really thinking like, all right, this will be a fun in-between thing that I do, learn a little bit about e-commerce, send marshmallows to my closest friends and family. And to this day, I don't really understand how it happened, but like that was a $1,000 revenue week.
Wow.
I don't get it. I still like, I'm just happy with the mystery. I'm never going to question it. I'm never going to look it in the eyes. And at the end of it, I had no systems. I had 1 KitchenAid mixer. I had my mom's brownie pans. I had bags from Michael's. I was handwriting labels. I did about 12 to 16-hour days.
Wow.
And at the end of it, I came up for air, and I just had this feeling of, I've never been more exhausted. I've never been more exhilarated, and I've never felt more rewarded in my entire life. I guess I'm starting a marshmallow company.
Woohoo!
So 2 years later now, here we are sitting at the tail end of an amazing year 1 and an incredibly amazing year 2. So it was really like, it's a story 10 years in the making, and also a tale of 72-hour split decision-making process.
That's so inspiring. And it brings me to this Japanese concept, which is called ikigai, which is your reason for being, which is what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And when
Oh
they
my
come
gosh, I love that.
together, that's your reason for being. And it really sounds like you have found the mechanisms and talents and experience to bring that together and, sustain yourself and also bring forth joy and creativity in your life. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
inspiring. That's really
that's amazing.
exciting.
I'm going to Google that concept immediately after we get off this call and then
Yeah,
go down a huge rabbit hole. But no, yeah,
sure.
I think that's exactly it. And I think one of the most important things about that is that I didn't plan this.
Mm,
I didn't, what was it, Ikigai?
yes.
I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know what my Ikigai was. It came together without me knowing it was coming. And
Mm,
so again, we're coming back to this idea of like, have faith, like trust that everything you do, no matter how off track you might feel in this moment, it's going to come in handy somewhere down the road. Things will come together, things will congeal, so long as, as you're maybe going off book, feeling far away from the thing, coming back to center and being like, okay, where can I tie these things together? It's okay to
mhm.
be surprised by the thing that sneaks up on you.
Yeah. I really appreciated how you shared that you were collecting experiences and
Mm-hmm.
like recognizing that this maybe different elements of it weren't the perfect part for you in that time, but that there was something to learn there and something to grasp onto and kind of wrestle with as you anticipated possible futures or tried out, imagining possible futures,
Mm-hmm.
including writing a cookbook in France. Fantastic goal there. And kind of just like collecting those experiences to inform what is now the structure of your business. That's just so exciting.
And I think something that I say to myself a lot, like, if you can't take the big step, take the next step.
Mm,
And I think it can be so paralyzing. If you do have this big goal, that can be it, if you try to achieve the whole thing at once, you're never going to start. So, I think this applies to all different areas of life, whether it's like self-love or your business or really anything. It's like, all right, you might know where you want to get. You might not see how to get there. So what's the next step? What's the thing that you can do that'll make the final result inevitable? What's the next thing that you can do to make the final result inevitable, and on and on and on and on?
I love that. And I think sometimes it's the smallest next thing you can do to
Oh
make
yeah.
that next thing more possible or more likely. I call myself a recovering perfectionist.
Mm.
And I realized, especially this year, that it's so much more important to be present and to show up and share what you have and get feedback about it.
Oh yeah.
And then you can grow it into something that's more meaningful for you and for your audience. And I think you have demonstrated that in the way that you just did a pop-up and then, woo, it turned into a business, a thriving business.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about what's changed for you this year? You started right before a pandemic.
Yes.
How did that shape your vision, your growth, the approach that you took to your business?
Yeah. And this is one of the areas where one of the other things that I kind of live by is my business taught me to throw out my blueprints. And I feel like that's kind of something that we've been circling as well, where it's like, I believe that the only thing that you can truly plan for is for everything to look different than you ever imagined it was going to. And I really tried to build my business on a foundation of agility, which sounds wrong. Like when you think foundation, you think sturdy, you think, you know, unmoving. But when it comes to business, like, whew, having agility somewhere on the ground floor, I think, is key. Something that allows you to move or be pushed in any direction without cracking, without breaking, without falling over has been a really big thing for me right now. Like, I see my business as standing on the balls of its feet at all times. Like, I don't think I've ever quite put my heels down yet. And it's funny because I kind of forget that everything that happened this year wasn't the plan. It's weird how easy it is for human beings to adjust. It's almost terrifying. But there were kind of two buckets of shifts for me. The first, if we're thinking kind of strategically and tangibly, that side of things was really about what are my areas for growth going to be? Because when I was going into 2020, I was pretty sure that was going to be in-person events. So that's cute. Ha ha ha. Sorry, not quite. I had 5 farmers markets a week lined up. I was looking to hire people to work markets for me. I had maybe 16 holiday events that I was going to do towards the end of the year. And at the, sorry, a whole bunch of snow just fell off my roof and it was a little terrifying. What was I saying? Oh yeah. And then COVID hit and suddenly every single holiday event was canceled. 4 of the 6 markets I was going to do was canceled. One of the 2 markets that still existed was in a place that only really caters to tourists. So that wasn't really going to be the lucrative opportunity I thought it was anymore. So suddenly it was this question of like, okay, where the hell is my growth going to be? Like, where the hell am I going to put all of this energy that I was planning on funneling in this direction? Because I am going to grow this year. That was like a thing that I wasn't letting go of. Like, growth avenue does exist. Where's it going to be if not the place I thought? So I really shifted heavily to online. Really shifted towards finding kind of like corporate accounts, businesses that are trying to stay connected to their employees from a distance, create senses of community within those corporate settings. It's possible though, there was that was successful, but I really think the most important shift that made 2020 successful was really more of a mindset shift. There was a month where I didn't get anything done this year. There was a month I was supposed to be working and I didn't because I was really scared and I felt paralyzed and I allowed myself to feel paralyzed. And it was so scary being like, I'm not getting any revenue right now. I'm not getting any revenue right now. But also really acknowledging and honoring that I am not in a place to create a good product right now. I like the thought of going into work right now feels like suffering. And my product is one of sweetness, joy, surprise. And I cannot create sweetness, joy, and surprise from a place of panic, fear, suffering. So it was crazy to do it, but I knew I couldn't jump back into things too fast. I knew I had to like honor where I was. And I'm so glad that I did now. I really think that being like, hey, okay, there's a pandemic right now, Alex. You got to remember that like even the little things that used to feel mundane, like going to the grocery store, are now an additional energy expenditure. And I still think that's true today, even though, again, like we're kind of used to it. There is energy constantly being expended on things that used to be able to go to other things. But now it's going to a baseline like safety, very primal. And yeah, even though it's second nature, that energy is still going somewhere. So getting in touch with myself, honoring that as much as possible, I think was a huge shift that I made. I didn't do that at all in year 1. I worked myself to the bone. I worked myself to the point that I was throwing up sometimes. Like I worked myself way past all of my limits in year 1. That shift in year 2, which in part was thanks to the pandemic. I don't know if I would have done it had those external circumstances not been present, shifted the entire year, made the entire year easier, and made really the theme of this year being somehow more impact, more revenue, less effort, less struggle, less pain throughout the whole process. So,
wow. You had talked about having an agile company, having a foundation that's based in flexibility. Can you talk about some of the pillars that you have set for yourself that allow you, like maybe your values that allow you to have that flexibility?
Yeah, that definitely comes back to this idea of living without blueprints a little bit. I it's a hard thing to do. Again, it's like, it's a practice more than a decision. I think, it's really easy to say like, I'm going to have an agile business. And then when you're actually in it, whew, okay, that can be tough. It's natural for us to get set in our ways, no matter what our ways are. So for me, it's having kind of mantras like my COVID mantras: plan for nothing, be ready for anything. Have that written in front of me at all times, like constant visual reminders of like the things that I want to be embodying through my life and my business. And something that I do to kind of measure my own success around this is, I have my revenue numbers, I have my very kind of tangible business goals, but I also have kind of like 5 guiding words at any given time that I try to make sure are ticked off, and allow a lot of room for how those words are going to be fulfilled in my life. So actually, I need to update them. I think last time they were like love, adventure, creativity. I don't even remember my 2 others. This is like a 2021 goal. I think I have to like reset.
We're always rewriting.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're allowed to evolve, you're allowed to change. But really, if I look at those words and I feel like those words are ticked off, then I know that I'm living in a way that's aligned with the way that I want, that's true for me. And if that is true, then I trust the decisions that I'm making around all of those things. And my business can look a million different ways. I don't need to be attached to like, okay, I'm going to have always 5 flavors available, or, markets are going to be super successful this year, whatever it is. Like, I can find all of the different ways to kind of get into those words that I define as success.
Can you talk a little bit about, well, first, what makes your products different and special, and then how you're sharing that with your audience?
Yeah.
What are your strategies?
Okay. So yeah, like, it's different in part. I mean, a lot of people have never had a homemade marshmallow, even a vanilla one. And then I kind of try to blow it much further out of the water than that at any given time. But it's interesting. My business quickly kind of taught me what it wanted to be. There's all the things that I pictured, there's all the things that I thought it was going to be. And then there was all the feedback that I got from it as I was actually building it. And it's really important for me to like stay open to kind of like the way the business is evolving, even if it's evolving away from the thing that I thought it was on day one. It's almost like being in a relationship with it. It's like, all right, constant like listening, feedback, conversation. Okay, like, you're this now, I'm this now. All right, how do we stay dancing together gracefully at any given time? But the way that I kind of like set my flavors up throughout the year, there's always 2 that I have available. There's been toasty vanilla and dulce de leche. I've had them since day one. They're always on deck. They're reliable, predictable, safe, and familiar. That's kind of like what I see that as. And then seasonally / whenever I happen to be inspired by something, I'll rotate 3 to 4 other flavors. Like for the holidays, I just did eggnog, gingerbread, and buttered rum. For Valentine's Day coming up, I think I'm going to be doing like a strawberry rose and passion fruit coconut. I also have a 3rd idea that I don't want to say yet because I don't know if I can do it yet.
Oh, we'll build the intrigue. That's great.
Yeah, like something might be coming.
Okay.
And then I also have kind of these flavors that I say have a cult following, where I love them. They're really hard to sell to the masses, but there's these small groups of people that are just kind of always waiting for them to come back. So I guess like the structure is kind of around incorporating that feeling of like newness and freshness into the rotation by changing things up every 2 to 3 months, but also having those staples that you can always rely upon. Like, okay, I know there's always going to be that, and I know I can always use that as a springboard into something more adventurous as well.
Mhm. And how did you go about, you said that you have corporate accounts. How did you go about initiating those contracts or marketing to those possible vendors? How did you start the relationships that were that helped you to be fruitful in this time?
Honestly, a lot of them, and I realize this, I'm going to try to figure out how to make this helpful, but a lot of them just kind of showed up.
Mm.
A lot of them were surprises to me. I get an email from in my inbox from a big company being like, "Hey, can you do a corporate event for us?" And I'm like, well, "How did you find me? How do you even know who I am?" But luckily, I can often trace those back to decisions that I made in my business. So, for
Mm.
example, I did a collaboration with Brave Coffee back in November, which I very strategically chose November to work with them because I knew December was going to be my biggest month. And basically, I donated 100 small bags to them to add to their subscription boxes. And, it's always a little bit difficult to give product away for free, but that somehow landed me a corporate account with Adobe.
Wow.
Ended up being huge. It allowed me to support two other small women-owned businesses just because their budget was so big, like their headcount was so big that I was like, you don't want this many marshmallows, but let me loop some other amazing people in on this and like create a package for you. So part of it is like being brave in your marketing and just trying to get as much exposure and awareness as possible. If you have faith in your product, if someone tries it, then they will probably, it will come back to you. I
Mhm.
also made it very easy on my website. I made front and center a tab that said corporate gifting, and made it very, very easy to contact me. So combination like awareness and then like opening as many doors as possible for that contact to come in. If they
Sure.
were to like, yeah, Janina did. Yeah, Janina, this can actually be traced back to Janina of Red Poppy Cakery, this Adobe order that I got because she introduced me to Brave. So power
Cool.
of local networking, people. You can't underestimate it.
Community is really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But there's also think about what your product is. I'm lucky that I have a very fourth quarter product. In the winter around the holidays, it's a marshmallowy time. It's a hot cocoa-y time. So, the time of year made a lot of sense for me. Also, I think I did reach out to a few local corporations being like, hey, I have cocoa kits available if you want to find ways to share sweetness and joy with your team this year. And so a combination of outreach and, just putting yourself as many places as possible and allowing kind of like that organic
Mm.
response.
What have been some of the best lessons you've learned? And sometimes growth can show us great discomforts and challenges. What have been some of the lessons you've learned? And if someone were starting out now, what would you suggest to them?
Oh gosh, too many to count. If you have a product-based business, it's always easier to lower your price than to raise it. So be bold at the beginning. And if don't forget that you need to leave room for wholesale. Leave yourself room to cut your profit margin to get wholesale accounts. That's something that I think a lot of product-based businesses are very timid when they're starting out. And it's like, well, like, who am I to be selling marshmallows? Like, who am I to say that someone's going to pay this for this bag? Like, let me undercut myself right off the bat and then leave myself, 6 months down the road, leave myself no room to play around with it.
Mm.
So that's one of my favorites is like always pray start. It's so much easier to lower than to raise. Um, Other lessons, gosh.
Or tools that you've used, things that you've tried that have helped you to take your business to the next level.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to like, what didn't I know on day one that I wish I did?
Do
Ooh,
you have
so it's funny. I'm like a
system?
very like mindset-y person, but the
Yeah,
stuff that's coming up for me right now is very tangible.
that's
um,
okay.
Something that I didn't think about off the bat was when I was picking like the platform to build my website on. make sure you're looking at everything that that website integrates with. I think when you're like starting the website, you're in a very different mindset from receiving sales, shipping sales. And like when I built mine, you know, the idea of actually getting a sale wasn't really in my purview. It was just like, okay, I'm doing this thing. And that really bit me in the butt down the road when I realized I built a suite that doesn't communicate. So like my website didn't speak to my shipping software, didn't speak to my accounting software, and which led me to, instead of finding systems that do talk to each other, really quick building jury rigs, you know, jury rigged bridges between these platforms. And then once again, no matter what, you get stuck in your ways. So even though I was like, okay, I know that if I spend 2 hours just like learning this other platform, that's 2 hours. I already know how to do this thing. I'm getting
But the
stuck in my
cumulative
jury
effect.
rig.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like just there will be change over time that you're not going to want to do later. So just from day one, think all the way down the line. So for example, I built my website on Wix, which is getting better. It's not the best, but again, I don't want to change it now because building a whole new website on a whole new thing. I use Shippo for shipping, which has a pay-as-you-go program that's free. I think if you are shipping like less than 250 packages a month. So it's a really, really nice kind of way to ease into it. And even once you get kind of past that 250 package a month mark, it's $15 a month, which is comparable to like stamps.com, which makes you pay from day one. So build yourself a suite that communicates. You will really thank yourself for it down the line. And for food-based businesses out there, one thing that really surprised me when starting was how easy it is to start out of your own home. The Department of Health has an exemption for companies that have revenues less than $10,000. And basically anyone who's just starting, you can operate out of your own home and no one even has to come look. So it's way easier to get started than you might think. So don't let that be in the panoply of reasons that you point to not get started. I'm taking that excuse off the table right now. It doesn't exist anymore. And now you're one step closer to actually doing the thing.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you. So this year has been different for everyone for different reasons. Yeah. But isolating. You do such a good job of connecting with your audience through social media. How are you cultivating relationships? How are you using the tools that you have to grow your business?
Yeah. Oof, I love that question. I mean, over the summer, the Burlington Farmers Market was such a wonderful social outlet for me. They did an incredible job of developing systems to support the safety of the vendors and the safety of the guests. And I was so grateful to spend every Saturday just outside meeting new people and just sharing the sweetness and joy that I'm trying to build with my company face to face again. That was wonderful. So when markets are a thing again, I think that's an amazing kind of social outlet that's extremely safe for everyone while kind of supporting local businesses. Lots of Zoom calls, of course, like everyone. Kind of on a personal level, I've always been a letter writer. So I've kind of upped my letter writing game with my friends. I've been making them like custom crossword puzzles about like our friendships and stuff. And
Sweet.
When they don't get the answers, I'm extremely offended. It's very clear that I love them more than they love me because they don't remember that detail from 8 years ago. How dare you? But social media has been huge. I'm so grateful that I prioritized that channel when I was building my business because I'm getting so much conversation with my customers. And there's really just all of these micro relationships in my life right now that absolutely wouldn't exist without my business. And so important.
Did you start your Instagram account before you had a business, or did it happen at the same time? What suggestions would you have for someone who, if they're thinking about starting a business, how would you direct them?
Yeah. So I had a personal account with like 230 followers kind of thing, like just the people that you accumulate from, having an Instagram account and going to school, that I really didn't use much. Like I wasn't good at social media or interested in social media on a personal level. Um, when I created my business, I just changed my personal handle to Nomadic Kitchen Confections, in part because I was like, I would rather start out with 230 followers. Like if they want to unfollow me because I'm doing this thing now, that's fine. But why start at 0 when you could start at 230 or however many you have right now? That also was tied, however, to I don't know if it was a decision so much as a thing that just happened, but it became a decision. I grew into the decision that there was going to be very little separation between me and my business. Like if you follow me on Instagram, Nomadic Kitchen Confections, you'll notice that like I don't limit the account to talking about marshmallows. I really try to give a full picture of what it's like to own a company, what it's like to be a person who owns a company. And that means that, like, yeah, sometimes I'm talking about my dog. Sometimes I'm talking about the great things. Sometimes I'm talking about the extremely frustrating things. Sometimes I try to like give a glimpse into my full life with boundaries. I have areas that I will not go, but that's made it really easy to grow. And I think, when you're starting a business, it can be hard to figure out like how you're going to differentiate yourself. And I find that the easiest way to differentiate yourself is with yourself. No one else is you. No one else is going to bring that unique magic, that personality, that strangeness, that weirdness, that passion that you bring to your business. Like two people could be making the exact same cookie, and you're going to experience that cookie very differently through social media based on the person who's talking to you about it. So I'm a really big proponent of showing up on social media. And this is coming from someone, again, my personal account, I didn't exist. I posted crappy pictures of nothing. I never did stories. This was something that I grew into. And for the longest time, showing up on stories, like I would write out a script, practice it a few times, record it. I fucked up, like do it again and again and again. And again, it's just a practice. And now I show up. I still fumble sometimes, but I show up fumbly and it's okay. And I've like developed that comfort with it. And it's just given people an extra in to supporting my business. Cause there's people who follow me who are like, hey, just so you know, I don't like marshmallows, but because I like what you're doing, I like the energy you're bringing, I like this authenticity, I'm going to try yours. Yeah. And so it's just another, you have your product and then you have everything that you build around your product. And I find that really injecting that personal, true, individual element to it. I mean, nobody else is you.
I think you do this in an astonishing way as an invitation of how people can follow you in your business. And as you said, the foibles, the successes, the challenges, that understanding why you deserved a vacation, all of those things you communicated and you took us through that journey. So I really enjoyed following your account for those reasons. You've talked about your value, the pillar of values that you base your business on, about some of the tools that you use and technology to connect with your community. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the responsibility of owning a business in this time, and how you use your voice, your platform to address social justice issues.
Yeah, that's a big one. We are living through the weirdest time. There's no blueprints for this. There's no, book that you can pick up and it's like, okay, what do I do on social media when there's been an insurrection? What do I do on, we are in brand new territory. And I think the first thing to kind of like breathe into is acknowledging that like, okay, nobody knows what they're doing. It's okay to feel really confused. It's okay to feel scared. And again, I think it's really just about like coming back to what's true for you. And you can't make a wrong decision from that place. You have a platform, you have people who are listening to you. And one of the things that like I realized, earlier this year when, once the year started getting into territory that we had never really seen before, was I asked myself, like, okay, your truth might lose you support. Your truth might lose you followers. What's the priority? Is it your truth or is it, 100 people? And I decided to pick my truth every time. And sometimes that, like most recently, like the recent wildness has unfolded while I've been on vacation. And my truth was, I set a boundary with social media. I'm not showing up right now. Like, this is something that I need to process on my own, process internally, be with by myself. And that has to be okay. And if people aren't okay with that, that also has to be okay. Like, honor your own timing, and communicate from, just that place of truth. You do have a platform. It should be used for what is true for you. You will welcome, I think, for the most part, it's, from what I have seen, the reasons that people don't want to speak out is because they're afraid of losing people. I would argue that the more that you're speaking your truth, the more that you're going to bring in the people that you actually want in your circle. You're going to bring in the right people and screw everyone else. Like, there's people for them too. They can go find those people. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of release that fear. But I think releasing it can't go wrong. It will only bring in more of what you actually want to be surrounded by.
And I think, as you said, it invites people who share your values to follow you and connect with you in a deeper way, and to empower that set of values in the marketplace, which is really a very valid way to make change in the world, is by voting with your dollar and supporting the businesses who show up in the market the way that you align your values. And that is huge, whether it's talking about social justice, racial equity, climate change. That's a really big way to make change in the world. So I absolutely, I hear you, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about hopes? You said that you threw out blueprints, but what hopes or visions do you have for growth or goals for this year?
Yeah.
Or for your business in general.
But I still have goals.
Yeah.
I leave room for those goals to surprise me, for like the way that they're actually going to look. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've really learned about myself, actually, I don't know if Sarah is still here, but we've talked about how like owning a business is like the most accelerated self-help program you can possibly do. Like, I've learned more about myself since starting this business than I did in the 29 years before that. But one of the things, there she is. One of the things that I've really learned about myself and want to honor about myself and build into my business is that I really like doing a lot of things. I don't like doing just one thing. I have so many interests, and in order to feel fulfilled, I need to be sending my energy to a lot of different places. There's a reason that I called my company Nomadic Kitchen instead of something about marshmallows. And that's because I've always intended for it to be more than just marshmallows. They will always be its home. They will always be its foundation. They will always be its springboard. Oh, now I'm just realizing that it's like, I was just talking about an agility foundation. Maybe it's just a squishy foundation. Maybe it's just a marshmallowy foundation. But so right now I'm really, really focused on building the product side of the business, but getting it to the point that it can kind of stand without me. I'm still very much in every single little piece of it. I'm still very much in like that entrepreneurial, I do everything in my business state. This year, a big goal of mine is really to transition more into like that CEO status, where it's like I am not running every single thing of the business that I'm building, but I am running this business that I built.
Mhm.
So yeah, 2021 is going to be about kind of like, oh, look, the toddler can walk now. I'm going to look after it, but I know that it can get across the room without me carrying it.
Sure.
And then really starting to think about like phase 2 of Nomadic Kitchen and filling my life with the things that make me feel alive and then sharing that with others. Taking like that sweetness and surprise of the marshmallows and seeing if I can kind of take that ethos and communicate it through different channels. And for me, that's probably going to look like writing cookbooks. Ah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, writing is one of the original things that I was pretty sure I was going to do and that I got very far away from. And now it's like, all right, let me see if I can like reel that back in and like, create this extremely diverse and fulfilling life. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I can't do things the way that people thought I was going to do them. I have to follow the things that I have the most energy for. And I'm really just trying to build my business in a way that lets me do that. And it's like this very freeing thing of being like, hey, I'm building this. This gets to be whatever I want. Like, I don't have to build my life around my business. I can build my business around my life. So we'll see how
That's
it goes.
exciting. That's inspiring. Yeah, absolutely. Is there a way that we can support you in your more immediate goals? You said that you have some things that are lined up for the Valentine's Day season. Can we help spread the word, or
Yeah,
what's the best way to support you right now?
absolutely. Let's see, I guess there's two things. I mean, you can definitely follow me on social media, Nomadic Kitchen Confections. That's definitely the place where I'm kind of most present, most consistent. You can get the most up-to-date kind of breaking Nomadic Kitchen news on that front. And again, kind of like become part of this community of micro relationships. And that's definitely one. I am relaunching. I'm technically still on vacation. I'm going to reopen the shop within the next week. Have a lot of fun Valentine's Day plans. Going to be taking pre-orders, doing some collaborations with a couple other local businesses like New Chocolat and Black Rose Briar. So have some really, really wonderful stuff planned for Valentine's Day that's really about sharing. Valentine's Day is about love. It's about sharing love. Let's see if we can help you do that. Whether it's with the people in your house or if you want to send love through the mail, we'll have you set up. The other thing that's a little bit bigger is that as I am thinking about, this transition to more working on my business instead of in my business is like, I think I'm hiring people, someone. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I think I'm looking to become more of like the creative force behind the marshmallows, but I'm going to be looking for someone to make them for me, to like
That's
be in the
exciting.
kitchen for me. So there's people out there who have like great attention to detail, maybe some experience with sugar work, great multitaskers, know how to dance in the kitchen. Send them my way because I might have an opportunity for them.
Okay,
Ah,
that's exciting. So
first time I've said that out loud.
well, thank you for sharing it with us here.
Yeah.
We're all
You
about
heard it here
business.
first.
Yeah, we're all about supporting business growth through community and collaboration, and so that's absolutely in the spirit of what we aim to do. And I'm just so excited for you that you've been able to follow your path, create your path to a successful business, and that you're willing to share with others the insights and experience that you've gained along your way, so that we can you draw upon the best of what you have to share with us about starting a business, growing a business, so we can learn from that. That's great.
No, it's definitely like, if I think about the impact that I want to have
Yes.
in my business, there's definitely like I want to spread sweetness and joy and surprise. I want to let you experience childlike joy as an adult, that's kind of the baseline impact. But if I think about it in a from a more 10,000 foot level. And I think this does come through the way it's like the way I treat my social media, like we've been talking about. I talk about transformation, growth, mindset, stuff that's great, stuff that's bad, all of it. I think more fundamentally, like the impact that I'm trying to have is like, I want to nurture people through the process of breaking the rules, because I really think that there's way fewer than we think there are. And if I can be a person that can help someone else realize that, if I can be the push that someone needs to just get excited to start playing in this space, then I'll feel successful.
Share that positive impact and joy in a different way. That's exciting.
Inspiring the next generation of rule breakers.
Woohoo! So I'm going to share in the chat. We have a link to an ikigai, as we talked about at worksheet.
Yeah, cool.
Some fun to play with. And then we have some questions for you.
Okay.
Woohoo. Okay, so let me start at the top because it looks like we have a few. Yeah, right. Take a little swig. Well, you clearly have a fan club. People are vying for first place.
Let's call it a community.
Well, actually, people are vying for first place, #1 fan. So your community is coming on pretty strong for you, just so you are aware. And one question: do you market to coffee companies?
So this has always been like a thing. From the very beginning, one of the ways that I started differentiating my product was I was like, yes, marshmallows are for roasting. Yes, they're for cocoa. Put your marshmallows in your coffee. So I definitely like market putting marshmallows in coffee. I have one local partner that carries my marshmallows, Willow's Bagels, and I know a lot of people have kind of caught on to the marshmallows and coffee revolution there. It's something that I can push a lot harder, and it definitely falls under wholesale for me, which is a channel that I've neglected largely because of my own production limits. Like it can be so hard to be like, yeah, I'll give you 50 bags at a slightly lower profit margin for me, when I know that I'm still at a point in my company when I can only make so much, and there are channels that are more profitable for me. So that's one of the big goals for 2021, is creating now the systems that allow me to be way less scared of wholesale. And so marketing to coffee companies will definitely be a part of that.
That's very helpful insight. Thank you. You had talked about shipping tools. That was a question. So thank you for that. Which writing won awards so we can read them? Do you have a blog that we can access?
Yeah, you can read all of the blog posts that I wrote while I was in France at Nomadic Kitchen, www.nomadic-kitchen, my website. I have a tab there called Road Journal, and that has all my writing, and all of my writing is also tied to recipes that you can make at home. So a lot of that is inspired by my time in France. So there's a lot of really traditional provincial recipes. The ones that got the most attention were one about a pasta making class that I took in rural Italy, which actually ended up being less about the pasta and more about the entrepreneur, the young woman who's from this tiny little town who created this incredible business that's all about cooking with Italian grandmothers. Cool. And I was like, oh, you're the story here, girl. I'm going to write about you, not the pasta. So that's one of my favorites. And the other one that got a lot of attention is a 2-part piece about truffle hunting in Provence.
Fantastic. So if we follow your Instagram feed, your website is linked there, and the blog.
Yep, you'll find it, and you'll find the Road Journal.
Perfect. It's all there. One question: did you or do you have a mentor or business coach?
So yes, I mean, I have a formal business coach. Her name's Chrissy Leonard. She's amazing. She does some kind of group work for kind of a lower barrier to entry than her one-on-one stuff. She's been extremely transformative for me. I don't believe that I would be where I am at my business today without that accountability, and without that person like pushing me and believing in me, maybe sometimes more than I believe in myself. So it's something that I definitely recommend. It was something that scared the crap out of me when I first thought about it, because business coaches are an investment, but they are worth it if you find the person who really resonates with you. Some lower barrier to entry options, I would check out Girls Guide. Girlsguide.co is, I think, their Instagram. They have a community that's, I think, really great for people who are just starting out. Really help you with like that first push into like all the ways to think about starting a business. And it's, I think they have one option that's like $27 a month. You could do it for just a month and get a whole lot out of it. So definitely check them out. I don't have a formal mentor, but I've spent a lot of time in the Vermont Womenpreneurs community, and I feel like that community is my mentor in so many ways. During non-COVID times, they have these amazing coffee meetups. And I remember the first one I ever went to, I like sat outside for 15 minutes before going in. I was sitting in my car. I was feeling super nauseous. I was feeling like a fraud. I was feeling terrible. I was like, I'm not going in. What are you thinking? This is such a bad idea. And I walked out being like, wow, I have never felt so safe, supported, and held. Like everyone in this community just understands what it's like to feel like you're going to throw up before going into the networking event. Like I have, it's like a full community of mentorship through that network. So if you're just starting out, definitely check out Vermont Womenpreneurs as well.
That's fantastic. They're just such a great resource, both of those. I'd also offer, we have a new resource hub for Vermont small business owners called Pivot and Thrive. It's an online community.
Here.
Yeah, well, actually, there's an app and a website where the activity takes place. And
Awesome.
so there are groups you can join, and the events information is all housed inside. So you never have to look in your Google Calendar or iCal for the Zoom details. It's all in one place. And it's a great place to start collaborations and connect with business owners across industries and across identities. It's not just for women, it's for folks of all identities. So really looking to draw upon diverse perspectives to influence our best practices as we move forward in the COVID marketplace and beyond. So excited. That just launched. And so if you're interested, definitely check it out. We'd be really happy for your participation. And for a limited time, the Founder Circle members access the community for just $29 for the year. So it's a great starting. Yeah, I know. So, well, but we want to support the early adopters and the people who are really helping to build this community, because it is co-created. So
I'm glad you're saying this, because I think you launched while I was on vacation. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
Well, welcome. Try it out, see, and let us know what feedback you have. I think it's a vibrant space, and I'm excited to see more and more energy there. And Sarah says she loves the app. Great, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so I just want to thank you, Alexx, for sharing your time with us today, for sharing your story, inspiring us, guiding us along the way. And it's been so valuable to hear from you and to follow your account. If you haven't already, check out Alexx's Instagram account. You also have a promo code so you enjoy in her shop. So I hope you'll make the most of that and support Sarah, this thriving business and help Alexx to grow it in the next year and beyond, so she can hire her team and build an empire that brings joy and positivity and sweetness to the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Thank you everyone for joining too.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for your time today. It really is a privilege and a pleasure to have this opportunity to share your story and to connect with other people.
Yeah. Can't wait to meet you in person one day.
All right. I look forward to that too.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Bye.